Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Well, it's Thanksgiving Day at the Anderson residence in Springfield. An episode of Father Knows Best starring Robert Young. This goes back to November 23rd, 1950, and Happy Thanksgiving.
Mother, is Maxwell House the best coffee in the whole world?
Well, your father says so, and your father knows best.
Yes, it's Father Knows Best, transcribed in Hollywood, starring Robert Young as father. A half-hour visit with your neighbors, the Andersons, brought to you by Maxwell House, America's favorite brand of coffee. Look for that familiar blue Maxwell House tin, featured in stores everywhere at lower prices, the lowest prices in months. Enjoy coffee that's always good to the last drop. Heap high the board with plenteous cheer, and gather to the feast, and toast the sturdy Pilgrim band whose courage never ceased. You know, the Pilgrims started the custom of Thanksgiving, but there are others whose trials and tribulations on an average Thanksgiving day bear inspection and a certain amount of sympathy. Take, for example, the Andersons, who live in Springfield in a white frame house on Maple Street. They count their blessings and give their thanks. But with 3 children in the house, even a simple rite like Thanksgiving can be a pretty complicated affair. Like this.
Mother!
We're in the den, Betty.
Is it all right if I borrow your earring?
Betty! If you have anything to ask your mother, come down here and ask her.
Jumping creepers.
Sounds like she was reared in a barn. Stands up there screaming her head off.
Jim, Kathy is waiting to read her poem.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
Yes, Daddy.
Go ahead, dear.
Well, now what are you waiting for?
I have to be introduced.
Pardon me. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the competition in the 4th grade, Miss Kathleen Anderson. Is that better?
Now you have to applaud.
Okay, we applaud.
Thank you.
What a ham. Has to get her applause before she reads the poem.
Jim.
Doesn't want to take any chances.
All right, dear. Anytime you're ready.
Yes, Mommy. Thanksgiving Day by Kathleen Joy Anderson, 4th grade. Thanksgiving is a lucky day.
Wait a minute. What was that name?
The name?
Your name. Say it again.
Kathleen Joy Anderson.
Where did the joy come from? Your name is Kathleen Louise Anderson.
But I don't like Louise.
You what?
Jim, Kathy and I talked it all over.
My mother's name is Louise, and if it's good enough for my mother, it's good enough for her.
It's only a middle name, dear, and if she doesn't like it...
Why shouldn't she like it? What's wrong with it?
Nothing, Jim, but it's her name.
You're darn right it's her name. She's not going to change it. Now, go ahead.
Mommy?
Go ahead, dear.
Gee whiz.
My grandmother and her mother were named Louise. There's no reason why she should want to change it. Well?
What?
Read the poem.
Yes, Daddy. Thanksgiving Day by Kathleen Louise Anderson.
That's more like it.
4th grade.
That's much better.
Jim, please.
All right, Kathy, go ahead.
Thanksgiving is a lucky day for all the girls and boys. It isn't just like Christmas when your parents give you toys. It isn't even like Easter when you get an Easter bunny. Or even like your birthday when your uncle sends you money.
What?
Jim.
When did her uncle ever send her money? Or anything else?
Kathy.
She's 9 years old. He's never sent her a button. Gives her money. He's so tight he can't even sit down.
Jim Anderson, I know you don't like him, but he's been very good to my sister, and if Kathy needs him for her poems...
Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and your brother-in-law. Boy, is that a combination.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Yes, Mommy. Thanksgiving Day by Kathleen.
Not from the beginning, Kathy. Start where you left off.
I don't remember where I was.
Your uncle was giving you money.
Oh.
That's something we can all remember.
Yes, Daddy.
This isn't a poem, it's a fairy tale.
Jim, if you say one more word...
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
Is it all right if I start up near Christmas?
Start anywhere you like, but start.
Okay. Thanksgiving Day by Kathleen. 4th grade.
Oh, dear.
Thanksgiving is a lucky day for all the girls and boys. It isn't just like Christmas when your parents give you toys. It isn't even like Easter when you get an Easter bunny. Or even like your birthday when your uncle gives you money.
I didn't say a word.
Go ahead, dear.
It isn't like the 4th of July or Decoration Day or summer vacation or Halloween.
Kathy, when are you going to stop telling us what it isn't like and tell us what it is like?
How can she when you keep interrupting?
It was supposed to be a poem about Thanksgiving, isn't it? And what has she said? It isn't like Christmas. It isn't like the 4th of July. Who said it was?
Jim, the poem has already won the contest. We're just supposed to listen.
But as long as...
We're just supposed to listen. Go ahead, dear.
You mean from the beginning?
No. Start after that funny part where your uncle gives you money.
Okay. It isn't like the 4th of July or Decoration Day or summer vacation or Halloween when all the kids can play. No! Jim!
Good grief. Scare a man half out of his wits?
Mother, is it all right if I borrow your earrings?
Look what you've done. Ash is all over the floor.
Well, I'll clean it up, Margaret. Don't worry about it.
What happened?
Nothing happened. I knocked over the ashtray, that's all. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thanksgiving is a different day. Excuse me, Kathy. I have to speak to Mother.
Let her finish the poem, Betty.
Father, I told Janie Liggett I'd be there early. She's counting on me. You don't have to read a poem over the radio. Oh, no. You mean she's going to read that horrible thing in public? Thanksgiving is a lucky day. I didn't see you winning any free turkey dinner. I didn't have to. The Liggets are going to have 3 turkeys.
Wait a minute. The way you kids talk, you'd think we'd never had a turkey in this house.
Jim.
I've got a good mind to keep you all home.
Father. Jim, it isn't a question of turkey. Kathy's principal told you.
Why couldn't they have their dinner some other day?
But Thanksgiving dinner was the prize, dear. For all 8th grades, it's become a major event.
And the Liggets. If somebody looks cross-eyed, Janie Liggett has a party.
Father, you said...
I know what I said. And it'll be a relief to get you all out of the house. Your mother won't have to spend all day cooking a dinner you'll wolf down in 20 minutes.
Jim.
We'll have a little peace around here. Even if it is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is a different day. The day I like the best. Kathy, I haven't asked about the earrings.
Which earrings, Betty?
The ones with the rhinestones.
Oh, dear, those are much too old for you.
Oh, no, they aren't, Mother. Really, they aren't. Thanksgiving is a different day.
Just a minute, Kathy. Betty, if your mother says they're too old for you...
But they aren't, Father. I tried them on.
Don't you think something less formal would be more suitable?
But, Mother...
After all, rhinestones in the afternoon.
Not good, huh?
Not good at all.
How about the little pearl ones?
Oh, much better.
May I?
Of course, dear.
Oh, thank you, Mother. You're an angel. Go ahead, Kathy.
Maybe I ought to get the vacuum cleaner. The whole rug's a mess.
Just leave it, Jim. I'll clean it later.
It'll only take me a second.
Jim! All right, Kathy.
No.
Yes, get it over with, please.
Thanksgiving is a different day. The day I like the best. It's even better than Sunday, which is called the day of rest. Thanksgiving is my favorite day.
So long, everybody.
Oh, goodbye, dear. Now have a nice time.
Bud, what are you doing with my suitcase?
What?
Thanksgiving is my favorite day.
Come in here and bring the suitcase.
Gosh, I'm not going to hurt it, Dad.
Did anybody say you could borrow my suitcase?
No, Dad.
Then why are you taking it?
Well, I have to carry them in something.
Carry what?
The football letters. They're going to give them out at the dinner, and the coach said...
Put it back where you got it.
But the coach said I could eat with the team.
I said put it back.
Holy cow.
Thanksgiving is my favorite day.
Jim, he isn't going to hurt anything.
That's not the point. He has no right to take things without asking for them.
But you were busy, Dad. I tried to ask you this morning, remember? I said, Dad, and you said you thought it was going to be wonderful for you and Mom to have Thanksgiving dinner in a restaurant for a change. And I said, Dad, and you said you thought everybody made too much of a fuss about Thanksgiving anyway. And I said, Dad, and you said...
Bud. Take the suitcase.
Oh, boy.
And next time, ask for it.
I tried to, Dad. I said...
Bud.
Okay, Dad.
Goodbye now.
Oh, is Billy here, dear?
He's parked out front.
Well, have a good time.
Don't eat too much turkey.
I won't. See you later.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Betty.
Bye. Thanksgiving is my favorite day.
Okay. Bud, are you driving downtown with Joe Phillips?
Yes, Dad.
Why don't you drop Kathy off at the school?
Okay. Come on, Kathy.
I haven't finished my poem.
Well, why haven't you? I haven't heard anything else for the past hour.
I tried to read it, and first you said that Uncle Richard...
Come on, Kathy, will ya? I'm late.
Nobody ever lets me do anything just 'cause I'm the littlest one in the family.
Kathy, read the poem.
Everybody thinks they can pick on me.
Kathy.
Thanksgiving is my favorite day, dear. That's where you left off.
And they don't have any right to... Thanksgiving is my favorite day, though the skies are gray and murky. 'Cause that's the day when I get to eat the drumstick of a turkey.
Well?
That's the end.
Some poem.
Bud. It's a very lovely poem, Kathy.
Thank you, Mommy.
You mean that won the competition?
Jim.
Well, I'm not surprised. It's, very good. A little, sentimental, perhaps, but very good.
Thank you, Daddy.
Get your coat, Kathy, and let's go.
Mr. Bryant said he'd bring me home, Mommy.
That's fine, dear.
And don't forget to listen to the broadcast.
We won't, and behave yourself.
Come on, will ya?
Well, stop pulling me. Why do you always have to pull me?
Thanks for the suitcase, Dad.
That's all right. Have a nice time, Bud. You too, Kathy.
Bye.
Be a good girl, Kathleen.
I will.
So long.
Goodbye, dear.
Well,
I'm completely exhausted. I don't know where they get all that energy.
Margaret, did she really win the competition with that poem?
She's only in the 4th grade, Jim. That's very good for the 4th grade.
When I was 9, I could write poems like that standing on my head.
Well, if you've ever seen Kathy study, you'd know that that's probably the way she wrote it.
Margaret,
Yes, dear.
have you noticed how quiet it is?
Yes, dear.
Hasn't been this quiet for weeks, has it?
No, dear.
It does you good to get away from the kids for a while. Gives you a chance to relax, take things easy. Read your paper and, things.
Yes, dear.
Get the kids out of the house and it makes all the difference in the world. Get a little peace and quiet. Don't you?
Yes, dear.
All that excitement and shouting and running up and down stairs, absolutely unnecessary, isn't it?
I suppose so, dear.
Margaret,
Yes, dear.
I'm lonesome.
Yes, dear.
November 23rd, 1950. Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Father Knows Best starring Robert Young, November 23rd, 1950.
That was very good, Barbara. Very good indeed. Now, our next winner is a rugged individualist indeed.
Jim, it's Kathy.
I'll be right in. She put her thoughts on Thanksgiving into verse and will now read the poem which won for her the competition in the 4th grade. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kathleen Andis.
Is it Kathy? Has she started yet?
Jim, be quiet.
Well, I just wanted to know.
Thanksgiving Day by Kathleen Joy, Louise Anderson. 4th grade. Thanksgiving is a lucky day for all the girls and boys. It isn't just like Christmas when your parents give you toys.
Well, why doesn't she go on?
Jim, please.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
It isn't as if she had to remember anything. She's got it right in front of her.
Well, dear, she's probably very nervous.
Well, she can read, can't she?
Kathleen, we're waiting.
I want to go home.
Now what's gotten into her?
Oh, the poor little thing.
Miss Anderson just remembered a previous engagement. Well, perhaps we'll have better luck with our next little guest. The winner of the competition in the 5th grade.
You see, Margaret, I told you she shouldn't have gone.
Oh, my poor baby.
I've never heard anything like that in my entire life.
She was frightened, Jim, that's all.
Frightened of what? You can't shut her up when she's in the house. As soon as she's supposed to talk, she makes a noise to sound like Georgie Jessel. I tell you, Margaret.
Yes, Jim.
Do you think we ought to go down and get her?
Oh, I don't think so.
Poor kid's probably crying her heart out.
She'll get over it. And don't forget they promised her 2 drumsticks.
I don't know. She didn't sound very hungry.
Do I?
What?
You promised me a Thanksgiving dinner at the townhouse, remember?
Oh, yes, I did, didn't I?
I'll get my hat and coat, or would you rather have me sue you for breach of promise?
Margaret.
Jim, there isn't anything wrong, is there?
Oh, no, honey. Everything's fine. It's just that... Well...
Yes?
I've been doing a lot of thinking, and, would you mind very much if we didn't go out?
Why, Jim.
I know I promised you dinner, but, well, I'd just rather eat here.
There isn't anything to eat.
Sure there is. I saw a whole heap of hamburger in the icebox.
A hamburger on Thanksgiving Day?
Well, Margaret, to tell you the truth, this, doesn't seem much like Thanksgiving. Not like the kind of Thanksgiving we used to know.
Well, it finally happened. After only 18 years, you're tired of me.
You know what I mean, don't you, honey?
I think so.
Thanksgiving has always been a special sort of a day for me. Even when I was a boy. It was more than just a holiday. It was a time when the whole family got together and had fun. We used to go out into the country to my grandmother's.
We did, too. Go to my grandmother's, I mean.
The whole family used to be there. My Uncle Rob and his wife and their 8 children, and my Uncle Will and his wife and their 10 children.
That must have been cozy.
Oh, it was. We ate in shifts. My grandmother always swore she was feeding half of the neighbors' kids. But it was fun.
Did you play games after dinner?
Heck no. We were so stuffed we couldn't move.
Oh, you were a bunch of sissies. We used to play Going to Jerusalem or musical chairs or charades.
That's pretty hard to do with just 2 people, isn't it?
Jim, there's one thing we mustn't forget. This is a new generation. It's a different sort of generation with new ideas and a new sense of values. Times have changed.
Mm-hmm. I guess they have. Let's go into the kitchen and see what we can throw together.
You're an old sentimentalist, Jim Anderson. That's what you are. And I love you.
I love you, too. You know, maybe if the kids get home early, we can all go to a movie or something. How'd you like that?
No, I wouldn't count on it, dear. Betty said not to expect her before midnight, and Bud's dinner won't start until 6.
Well, Kathy isn't going to stay out all night, is she?
Well, no.
Okay, then we'll take Kathy to the movies.
Well, we'll see, dear. It all depends on... Bud!
Hiya, Mom. Hi, Dad.
What are you doing here?
Fixing a hamburger. Want one?
Well, what happened to the dinner?
What dinner?
At the training table with the football team.
Oh, that dinner.
Well?
I don't know. I guess I just wasn't hungry.
Weren't hungry? You?
Dear, I'm going to call Dr. Simmons.
Wait a minute, Margaret. Bud, if you aren't hungry, why the hamburger?
The hamburger?
Pardon me, the 3 hamburgers.
Oh, well, I guess I got hungry.
Oh, Bud, if you don't feel well, please tell us.
But I do feel well, Mom. I feel fine.
Look, Bud, if you don't want to tell us the truth.
But I am telling you the truth. I didn't like the dinner, that's all. Bunch of big goofs sitting around talking about football. What good is that?
Since when don't you like to talk about football?
What good is that?
Since when don't you like to talk about football?
Just a second, honey. Kathy?
It's me, Father.
What's she doing home?
What on earth is...
We're in the kitchen, Betty.
I'll be right in.
Oh, dear, just when everything was going so well.
Margaret, why do you immediately assume that something is wrong? Maybe the Liggets decided not to have a party. Or maybe Betty had the wrong day. Lots of things could have happened.
The party was today. I know it was.
Well, maybe it hasn't started yet.
What's everybody doing in the kitchen?
What is everybody doing in the kitchen? And what's everybody doing back home? November 23rd, 1950. Father Knows Best. The conclusion follows these messages. You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Father Knows Best, starring Robert Young, November 23rd, 1950. Why's everybody come back home?
Oh, hi, Bud. What are you doing here?
Oh, nothing much. Want a hamburger?
Okay.
Never mind the hamburgers, Bud. We've got things to discuss that are much more important.
Then hamburgers?
Do you feel all right, dear?
Sure. Why?
You told your mother you wouldn't be home until midnight.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to, but I came up with the most awful headache.
Jim.
You just said you felt fine.
I do. Oh, I do except for this headache.
Jim, I'm going to call Mrs. Liggett and ask her...
Mother, you know if there was anything wrong, I'd tell you. I always have, haven't I?
Yes, dear, you have, but...
Just a minute, Margaret. Kathy?
Yes, Daddy?
We're in the kitchen. Come on in.
Yes, Daddy.
See, Margaret, I told you we should have gone down for her.
Well, I had no way of knowing.
What's the matter with Kathy?
Your sister reads the first line of her poem and bursts into tears.
No kidding.
The poor little thing. Hello.
Oh, Angel.
Hello, sweetheart. Come on over here and tell your daddy all your troubles.
I don't have any troubles, Daddy. I'm just not happy.
Well, it isn't anything to cry about, is it?
It was a lovely poem, darling, even if you didn't read it.
And don't you worry, knothead. If anybody makes fun of you, I'll poke 'em right in the nose.
Oh, Bud.
I don't care if they do make fun of me. I didn't want to read my poem, not to them.
Why, Kathy, they're your friends.
I don't want them. It's Thanksgiving, and I wanted my mommy and my daddy and my sister and my brother. I was lonesome.
Kathy, darling.
She's all right, Margaret. Just leave her alone.
Mother.
Yes, Daddy.
I was lonesome, too.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
Oh, Jim.
Margaret, not you.
Yes, me too.
Good grief. You sound like the third act of Uncle Tom's Cabin. What's the matter with you, Bud?
Nothing. I just feel like blowing my nose, that's all.
Well, blow it. Now, get busy with the hamburgers.
Okay, Dad.
How about a little food for the hungry Anderson?
Well, I'm starving.
Hamburgers. The fine thing to serve for a Thanksgiving dinner, isn't it?
It sounds fine to me.
I don't care what part of the hamburger I get. As long as it's the drumstick.
That girl, Kathy. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's sit down and be comfortable.
Well, I'll take over, Bud.
I'm doing fine, Mom.
Oh, Bud, really?
Now, don't argue with the chef, Margaret. Just sit down and relax.
Well, if you insist.
4 hamburgers coming up.
Well, that'll take care of me, but what are they going to eat?
Daddy.
Oh, you big pig.
Margaret, kids, before we dig into these juicy Thanksgiving burgers, may I say something?
Sure,
Go ahead,
Father.
This has been, I think, the happiest Thanksgiving day of my entire life. And if you don't mind, I'd like to say a special grace. Oh, Lord, we give thee thanks from the bottom of our humble hearts for the blessings thou hast seen fit to bestow upon us. We thank thee for the food that graces our table and the roof that covers our head. We thank thee for the privilege of living as free men in a country which respects our freedom, our personal rights to worship and think and speak as we choose. But most of all, dear Lord, we thank thee for making us a family, for giving us sincerity and understanding. we thank thee for giving us the most cherished gift a family may know, the gift of love for one another. Amen.
And in the Anderson breakfast nook, life has eased back into its accustomed groove. Thanksgiving Day is over, but the Andersons, well, they go on forever, like this.
Why can't I wear lipstick? Claudia McHugh does, and she's only 12.
Here's your coffee, dear.
Thank you.
Well?
Well, what?
Well, why can't I?
Because I said you couldn't. And eat your breakfast.
Gee whiz.
Oh, Margaret, we've got to do something about that boy. He's beginning to shake the house.
I'll speak to him, dear.
If he can't take it easy on the stairs, don't feed him so much. One of these days he's going to go right through.
Hiya, Dad. Good morning,
Hi.
Mom.
Sit down and eat your breakfast.
Good morning, dear.
He didn't say anything to me.
Hiya, Squirt.
Good morning.
Father, do you know what Bud did? He used my good cologne on his hair.
Good morning, Betty.
I used 2 drops.
You used practically the whole bottle.
I did not.
Good morning, Betty.
Mother, if I can't have a little privacy with my own thing.
Betty.
What?
Good morning.
Good morning, Father.
That's better. Sit down, eat your breakfast.
Jumping creepers.
You know, Margaret, there's one thing I'm really going to enjoy about our Thanksgiving Day dinner yesterday.
What's that, dear?
We're probably the only family in Springfield that won't be eating leftover turkey for the next month.
Yes, dear.
What are we going to have for dinner tonight?
Leftover hamburgers.
November 23rd, 1950. Father knows best, and hope you have a happy Thanksgiving hamburger. You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Part 3 of the 5-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, The Amy Bradshaw Matter. This episode, November 23rd, 1955.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Al Santella at police headquarters, Johnny.
Yeah. You hear what happened at the Criterion Theater after the show last night?
I was off duty when you called, but Sergeant Rogers gave me a fill-in this morning. So somebody tried to drop a sandbag on Amy Bradshaw backstage.
Yeah, a real near miss. You still think these attempts on her life are publicity stunts?
No, looks like your hunch was right. I'll have a couple of my boys keep an eye on Amy.
Thanks.
Johnny, you wanted to know the whereabouts of this guy, Bill York, the husband Amy separated from.
What have you got on him, Al?
768 West 4th Street, down in Greenwich Village.
Thanks, I'll check it.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. New York City, expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar. To the Home Office, Northwestern Indemnity Alliance, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Amy Bradshaw matter. Expense account item 8, $275. Taxi from my hotel to Greenwich Village to try and locate a writer named Bill York, who had separated from Amy 6 months ago. Amy was a good actress, but she couldn't hide the fact she was plenty scared by the attempts on her life in the last 3 days. My hunch was it was someone close to Amy, and Bill York was very much on my list. After all, he was the beneficiary on her life insurance policy. I hadn't been to this part of the village in 2 or 3 years, but from the looks of it, it hadn't changed a bit. Defiantly shabby and run down. A few beards here and there, a few gals with long, straight hair. Bookstores and bars, side by side. I checked at the address Al Santella had given me. It was a beat-up old rooming house.
You come down here to interview the famous writer, something like that?
Not exactly.
Oh, too bad. Here I thought you wanted to carry my message to America.
No, I'm afraid that's a little out of my department, Mr. York. Amy did mention that you were a writer.
I can tell you exactly what she said. She said, You know, Bill's a writer, sort of, right?
Well, as a matter of fact.
Amy always felt it necessary to apologize for me. That was one thing about our marriage that was always so charming.
Well, look, I didn't come here to discuss your marriage, York. I don't know what you're so bitter about. It's none of my business, but...
Why, Dollar, what do I have to be bitter about? Here I am, an artist, living an unfettered life of freedom in Greenwich Village. What more could I ask?
I guess I haven't read any of your books.
Don't worry about it. You're in good company. You and the publishers.
Oh, that's too bad. Must make a little problem in the grocery department.
Oh, that doesn't worry me. You see, one can always manage to live comfortably in hock.
Oh?
And if one is willing to hock his soul, of course the returns are much greater.
I don't get you.
That's not surprising, because nobody else but me would call it my soul. It's just the manuscript for an unpublished novel. 3 years of work and sweat and pain. But my clever pawnbroker, Mr. Pomeroy, has a fair idea what it means to me.
Mike Pomeroy, Amy's agent?
Charming chap. Quite shrewd.
In other words, if you could raise some money, you could get this brainchild of yours out of hock from him. Tell me, how long's it been since you've seen Amy?
Several months. Why?
You haven't been uptown near her apartment the last few days, huh?
No.
You sure?
Of course. Anything else?
No. Not for now. I was getting nowhere in my attempt to find out who was gunning for Amy Bradshaw, and I knew it. I called Mike Pomeroy, her agent, but he was out, so I took the next name on my list, the producer of Amy's play, Emery Taylor. Expense account item 9, $175. Cab fare to Taylor's apartment in the mid-50s near the Museum of Modern Art. Taylor wasn't in, but his wife Dora was. She was sleek-looking and a little on the brittle side. She was sitting behind a small bar in the den, and she looked quite at home there.
Drink?
Thanks. Will your husband be back soon, Mrs. Taylor?
Who knows? Here.
Oh, thank you.
What do you want to see him about?
Amy Bradshaw.
What about Amy Bradshaw?
I wanted to ask him if he knew of anyone who might want to harm Amy for any reason.
Oh, I could answer that better than Emery.
There is someone?
There certainly is.
Who?
Me.
Why?
Would you like it if your husband was knocking himself out for for a younger woman?
Well, now, isn't that part of the business?
Is it? That's not all. Amy's hurt plenty of people getting where she is.
You think your husband's one of them?
I hope not.
Who has she hurt, Mrs. Taylor?
Do you know Dave Coleman?
Her director?
He was very much in love with Amy a few months ago.
Oh, I see.
I don't like to see someone I like get the way he was. One night here, he had a couple too many. He said, if he couldn't have her...
Oh.
Funny. How quick he got over it, though.
Never says anything about it anymore, huh?
Not a word.
What about Porter Kane?
Oh, you've met him.
Is he one of them that Amy's hurt?
No, he's not in that category. Whatever happened to hurt him must have happened at about the age of 5.
What do you mean?
Oh, isn't that when most of our troubles start?
I wouldn't know.
I once paid a psychiatrist $500 to tell me that's when mine started.
Your troubles?
Sure. Can't you tell, Mr. Dollard? I'm the mixed-up type.
Aren't we all, Mrs. Taylor? I left her, still sitting behind the bar, and somehow I felt sorry for her. But she had given a new lead. David Coleman, Amy's director, who'd had it bad for Amy just a few months ago and had now completely recovered. Maybe. I made a mental note to have a little chat with Coleman that night. Then I put in another call to Mike Pomeroy. This time he was in, and I finally talked him into meeting me at a little bar on West 44th near the theater. But when I got there, I could see that he wasn't feeling very cooperative.
Look, Dollar, I suggested once before, nice and polite, that maybe you should try minding your own business.
I got the message, all right, Pomeroy, and now I've got one for you. I am minding my own business. This is what I was hired to do. The insurance company I represent holds a pretty hefty life insurance policy on Amy. And if she's in any danger, they want to know about it.
But I told you before, I think this whole thing's pretty silly.
I had a talk with Bill York, the writer, this morning. Even though he and Amy are separated, you know, he's still the beneficiary on her policy.
So?
So he says he's in hock to you.
He's a bum. He wasn't doing Amy any good. She was worrying about him. When they split up, I told him as long as he stayed away from her, didn't try to see her, I'd keep him in groceries.
I see.
But naturally, I wanted some security.
The manuscript of his book, for instance?
Great unborn American novel.
Well, apparently that manuscript means a lot to him.
That's why I figured it'd be good security. What's the matter, Dollar? You look like you smelled something bad.
Do I?
What am I supposed to be? A philanthropist?
Let me make one thing clear, Pomeroy. As far as the kind of loans you make, I agree with you. It's none of my business. But maybe I just got a sensitive nose.
Yeah. Anyway, now I want my dough back. Is there anything wrong with that?
Not a thing.
I've got a play lined up I know will go over big. I want to produce it. York's tab has run up to several $1,000 now. I could use the money.
I see.
The stupid part of the whole deal is that York could pay me back within a couple of months if he wanted to.
Oh.
Sure. There's a lot of dough floating around to be made in television these days. But that prima donna thinks he's way above that sort of thing.
This play you want to produce, Pomeroy, will it star Amy?
No. Sheila Mitchell.
Oh. Well, thanks for the information. Be seeing you.
I doubt it.
On my way over to the Criterion Theater, I thought about Pomeroy, a rugged customer. And I felt he was one more who wouldn't let anyone stand in the way of anything he wanted to do. After the show, I picked up Amy backstage and took her back to her apartment. She looked very tired and didn't say much. We said goodnight at the front entrance, and I started walking along the sidewalk. Then I spotted somebody in the shadows across the street again, watching. I could tell from his hat and coat he was the same one who'd been there the night before last. I kept on walking until I reached the corner, then circled halfway around the block to an alley and edged up on him from behind. He didn't see me until I dove at him. Well, Bill York.
Oh, what are you doing here?
So you haven't been near Amy for a long time, huh? Except tonight and the night before last, watching her apartment?
Darling.
Come on, York, start talking. And it better be good.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's episode of the Amy Bradshaw Matter.
Tomorrow, I find I have even more of a reason for keeping Amy alive than I'd realized. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Robert Reif, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
From November 23rd, 1955, Part 3 of the Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, The Amy Bradshaw Matter, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And your name?
This is Debbie Reynolds. If you've been wondering what you can do to fight communism personally from your own home, there is something you can do. Support Radio Free Europe, the station built and financed by the contributions of the American public to the crusade for freedom. Radio Free Europe is one Cold War operation the communists fear and attack constantly. Support Radio Free Europe. Send your truth dollars to Crusade for Freedom, care of your local postmaster.
Our country was founded by men who had faith in God and who were willing to endure hardship and sacrifice for the sake of that faith. In these troubled times, there is need to support a way of life based on the enduring principles of religion, which knit the family together, make for good citizenship, and build the character of the children. The religious institutions in your community need your interest and support, so take an active part in religious affairs. Your pastor, rabbi, or priest will give you invaluable family counsel and aid if you're a newcomer to the community. To face the problems of the future, America must be morally strong, and that moral strength comes through worship and faith. Go to church this week and take someone with you.
Thanks so much for making us a part of your day here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Would you do me a favor and visit my friend Ted over at radiomemories.com. If you're looking to build a classic radio collection of your own, you can get some of the best sounding shows and the best quality you will find through Ted. He does a lot of work in restoring those shows to great fidelity. He supplies shows on cassette as well, along with CD and flash drive for your computer. Visit Ted, radiomemories.com. Or visit my webpage, classicradio.stream. We have all of Ted's contact information there as well. And in addition, you can download our shows. We got a list of places you can download the shows at our page, classicradio.stream. You can listen to them on demand. You can catch up if you miss a show. You can also find our social media links. Hope you'll stay up with us out there on social media. That keeps you advised with what's going on with Classic Radio Theater. And you can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money does not go to buy me coffee. It does not. It goes to help us build our classic radio collection. That is at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. And thank this station and support their advertisers. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox right here on your favorite radio station.